Welcome back to Desert Sun Crypto. I'm your host, the Desert Sun. Before we get going, I wanted to take a moment and give a shout out to my man Jimmy Ritt, who provided this picture that I use in the background on my channel. A lot of people use stock, but I think this is just a good summation of what the Desert Sun is all about. So, Jimmy Ritt, thank you very much. Now, moving on, I've got a lot to cover in the crypto space, and I do a lot of research. I do a lot of listening to interviews. I listen to some other talking heads in the space. Um, Gary Gensler has here's his Twitter. I just found out about a couple weeks ago. Look at this picture; it's great. Uh, Gary Gensler, he in the last 40 hours blew up. Um, Basically every platform that I'm on. He had an interview with the Aspen Institute at a Aspen Security Forum they had. He was pressed on some Q&A questions they had at the end of his talk um, by this woman, Anja Manuel. Now, if you don't know who Anja is, let me show you. Anja Manuel, she is on the board of directors for Ripple. Ripple, the same company that Brad Garlinghouse and Chris Larson are named in the lawsuit against the SEC that was handed by the predecessor to Gary Gensler, Mr. Jay Clayton. So let me play this portion without any further ado.
The first one is, I noticed you made a comment early in your speech that said the probability is that with 50 plus tokens that most of them are securities. The Q&A exploded into understandably, well, how do we know which one is a security, which one isn't? Why did Ethereum and Bitcoin get a free pass? And do you believe that's still appropriate, even though Ethereum, many people believe, was an ICO? Are you going to keep doing this regulation through litigation, which is what currently is going on, or are you going to set some clear criteria so people in the market will know if they're issuing a security or if something has become a real currency or a commodity because it has a real use case?
So it's a great set. I know you're combining different people's questions. Yeah. It's a great set of questions. Let me say, I think there's actually a fair amount of clarity. And why did I quote Jay Clayton to say,
you heard him, folks. He thinks there's clarity. He basically reiterates it that it's clear as possible. Now, this is important that he says that it's clear. He said this before. Jay Clayton, he's basically echoing, and that's what he's saying. He's echoing the same thing Jay Clayton had said prior. I want to jump ahead because there's another question answer that Anja has with Gary Gensler that leads into some other things I'd like to share.
I would say very clear. Now, in terms of the enforcement, yes, we're going to use our enforcement authorities as my predecessors did 6 or 7 dozen times, and we'll continue to do that. What I'm also saying to those platforms, come in and discuss it with us, get registered, work with us and work with Congress if there's things.
Okay, so here he is. He's answering the question a little bit more, asking where the clarity is. He said it, there's clarity. Work with us, work with Congress. So, okay, so ultimately what it sounds like is that he's positioning the SEC to be the one that is going to determine the fate of any kind of stable coin or cryptocurrency that's out there, which invokes Congress and this woman, Senator Elizabeth Warren. Now, this one is it's quoting her saying cryptocurrencies need a cop on the beat, which she does say in this interview. Then she's asked this question.
Raises a question of who is the cop on the beat, or who gets to decide who the cop on the beat is. I mean, is it the SEC? Is it the CFTC? Do we need you up in Congress to tell us?
You know, I think that's a good question, and the answer is right now, we don't have any cops on the beat to speak of, and There are going to be, I think, a lot of different approaches. So Gensler is now talking about what the SEC can do, but there are other spaces for other actors depending on how you think crypto plays out, whether you see it as a currency, whether you see it as an investment. And that means you really put it back on Congress.
So it's Congress. Short answer. She does have a point. There's not a lot of clarity depending on how you look at cryptocurrency. If you notice, the gentleman interviewing her invoked the CFTC. Interesting. Because check this out from Cointelegraph. SEC has no authority over crypto, CFTC commissioner argues. So the former CFTC chair, Chris Giancarlo, remember that name, argued that the CFTC is the only U.S. regulatory agency that has experience regulating markets for Bitcoin and crypto. Okay, Elizabeth and Gary, you've got someone else that believes it to be another entity, as well as the current CFTC commissioner. There are more than one, Brian Quintens, who took to Twitter. And what does he say on Twitter? Basically the same thing Giancarlo says. Just so we're all clear here, the SEC has no authority over pure commodities or their trading venues, whether those commodities are wheat, gold, oil, or crypto assets. Shots fired. Here we go. CFTC, SEC, and Congress are undoubtedly going to be battling over who's going to be the regulatory agency to make a lot of decisions. Could it be all of them? Absolutely. But you're not going to have the SEC just kicking the door in and saying, here's what we believe, and here's the gospel for cryptocurrency, and you must abide by it. I don't think that's going to happen. It sounds like you're going to have all three entities, CFTC, SEC, and Congress all working together. That's just my opinion. Let's look at what Brad Garlinghouse had to say with regard to what he heard in terms of what Gary Gensler had to say earlier.
If I could offer, by the way, I think, to me, by the way, I agree with everything Sigal just said. The one thing I would add is the other elephant in the room, I think, is the lack of clarity that has gone on in this industry. And, for years, I think the crypto industry has asked for that clarity. And yet, we're still getting this kind of, hey, yesterday we heard it is clear, yet a few weeks ago, we had two commissioners and Pearson Roisman saying, a letter, and I'll quote, they said a decided lack of clarity for market participants around the application of the securities laws to digital assets and their trading. So to me, one of the elephants.
Yes, he's talking about an elephant in the room. Yes, he is correct. And if you haven't seen Brad Garlinghouse before, he's fired up. He's lit. He's speaking passionately about it, and he has every right to. Ripple had gone to the SEC for months and months leading up to this lawsuit, and according to them, they were not given any kind of direction. So no, there isn't clarity, and there's probably two definitions of clarity. Garlinghouse doesn't mince words. You can read one of the articles where he basically goes on to say that, basically alluding to the idea that Gensler saying that there's clarity is like an alcoholic saying that they don't have a problem. Hilarious. So let me jump back. Brian Quintez, like I said, he is one of the commissioners for the CFTC, which is the Commodity Future Trading Commission, as well as Chris Giancarlo, who was a former chairman appointed by Trump, who left the summer of 2019. Where did he go? Oh, he's just working for the Digital Chamber of Commerce. The Chamber of Digital Commerce. Sorry. Now, they're tied in with one of the projects going on that is called the Digital Dollar Foundation. with Accenture, and Cointelegraph basically, breaks it down and says that Accenture has teamed up with the Digital Dollar Foundation to conduct central bank digital currency or CBDC trials in the United States. Now, if you've seen other videos from Jerome Powell, he's talked about how they're doing research and their people are doing the work. This is who's doing the work. It's not the Federal Reserve. They're off printing money and trying to figure out what their next move is. These are the folks who are doing the work, and one of the individuals tied in with it is Giancarlo. Now, jumping over to this idea of this digital dollar project is that there's this foundation working with Accenture, and who pops up here? Chris Giancarlo, former chairman of the U.S. CFTC and co-founder of the Digital Dollar Foundation, said, quote, "The U.S. doesn't need to be the first to the central bank digital currency, but it does not need to be a leader in setting standards for the digital future of money, which is why our pilot testing collaboration with Accenture and other partners is so critical. We need to better understand how to balance the complex issues of CBDC and how to incorporate key societal values like privacy rights, financial inclusion, and rule of law. Together, this project team will conduct research, experiment, and develop thought leadership in an open manner in the interest of informing public policy." I don't know what else to say other than there's so much stuff going on behind the scenes, and there's so much interesting things that are happening every day. Uh, there's got this spat between the SEC and Ripple, Gensler and Garlinghouse. You've got Elizabeth Warren saying and injecting Congress into the mix with cryptocurrency. You also have one of the commissioners injecting the CFTC in the mix, saying, "No, we are in charge." At the end of the day, it's these subtle things that are really going on in the background. This article from 2 months ago, I wonder how many people read it. I doubt many people did, but this is the type of research that happens in the space, and I love people sharing what they have. It just makes us a very well-informed army of cryptocurrency holders. The last thing I want to share before we go, this is actually the white paper on the digital dollar project, and they talk about where the where the research, the data, and everything is going to be based on. And yes, it's going to hit the small guy. Yes, it's going to hit banks. But check out two portions that are in both 3 and 5: multinational business, international payments, cross-border transaction efficiencies. Sounds like XRP. And as we jump down, international payments, banks paying banks, streamlining the correspondent banking network, streamlining trade corridors. CBDCs, in my opinion, are not going to be effective. Nothing's going to move. Nothing is going to be solidified unless XRP Ripple is involved. Folks, this is why I love this space so much. There's just so many interesting aspects, and every single day, including today, the last 48 hours have just been just so interesting, so intriguing. So I'm gonna leave you with that. Again, like, share, subscribe. I appreciate every single one of you in this space. The Bearable Bull says that that's his line, and I know the appreciation that he has now. So shout out to Bearable Bull. I appreciate you guys. I really do. And look forward to seeing you here again. This is the Desert Sun with Desert Sun Crypto.